This is going to be a masterclass episode. I'm going to walk you through what quantum rehearsal is, why it works, how it's different from traditional manifestation advice, and exactly how to start using it today. Welcome to the Artwork of You, the podcast where your life is the canvas and you are the masterpiece. I'm your host, Lori Gouhin, and together we'll explore creativity, self-awareness, mindset, goal strategy, and the importance of accountability so that you can paint your life's portrait with confidence and ease. Remember, in the gallery of life, you're not just a spectator, you are the art. So let's grab our brushes and start creating the masterpiece that is you. Hello, my friends. I am so glad that you are here with me today because today I'm sharing something that I've never talked about before, at least not quite like this. And that is the best way that I have found to manifest what you want in your life. I know I've talked about manifestation before and have suggested ways that really work and make a difference, but I've never talked about the comprehensive system that I've created for myself. So today I want to share that. And if you've ever felt like you've done all the things, the vision boards, the visualizations, the identity work, the affirmations, maybe you've tried to align your energy or act as if, but it still feels like nothing's really clicking or moving fast enough, I want you to know it's not that you're doing it wrong necessarily. I think that it's because most of what you've been taught about manifestation is either too slow or it just doesn't match how we actually work. And this episode is going to change that. What I'm sharing today is something that I've perfected in my own life, and it's created very real shifts. It's something that I call quantum rehearsal. Not that I had to have a name for it, but in trying to formulate it into something that I could teach to you, I came up with a name. And that's the name I came up with, quantum rehearsal. And it's not about belief, and it's not about waiting until you feel ready or perfectly aligned or anything like that. It's about learning to rehearse your next reality so precisely, so specifically, that your nervous system can't tell the difference between what's real and what you're trying to encode. And once that happens, your behavior changes. Your focus really sharpens and things start to shift and pretty fast. So this is going to be a masterclass episode. I'm going to walk you through what quantum rehearsal is, why it works, how it's different from traditional manifestation advice, and exactly how to start using it today, even if nothing else has worked for you before. And I understand, maybe you've had some success with manifestation, but I would say a lot of the times, if we're being honest, I bet a lot of it feels slow or random or feels like you're doing everything right, but you're still waiting. And here's what I think is going on. I think that most manifestation advice is designed around hope because it asks you to believe hard enough and to visualize long enough or to act as if until somehow you cross over into that version of yourself who already has what you want. But here's the problem with that. Your nervous system doesn't operate on belief. It operates on what's familiar. And what becomes familiar is shaped by what you rehearse and what you're exposed to repeatedly, even exposed to unconsciously. And this is why subliminal programming works, because it bypasses the conscious mind and talks directly to your subconscious, where the real patterns are stored. And so it doesn't matter if you believe it. If you're hearing it, and especially if you're hearing it consistently, your subconscious logs it as if it's part of your normal environment. And you've probably heard me talk about subliminals before, and I definitely still use them regularly. But what most people miss is that when you combine subliminal exposure with active rehearsal, it will equal rapid manifestation. So if the thing you want, maybe it's money, creative success, love, freedom, if it still feels unfamiliar to your system, your brain will quietly reject it or stall it. Not because it's not possible, but because it hasn't been rehearsed and it hasn't been coded in your system as something that is safe. So you end up defaulting back to your baseline. And it's not necessarily resistance. I'd say it's more conditioning. And I want to be really clear here. It's not a willpower issue. It's not that you don't want it badly enough or that you need to raise your vibration. It's that you're trying to get results through belief when what you actually need is repetition that bypasses whatever resistance you might be having. You need your body, your brain, your emotions to practice being the version of reality where it's already happening. Not once, not 20 minutes on the night of the full moon or anything like that, but regularly and intentionally for brief, focused periods of time. And so it's not about visualizing your dream life. What you want is to choose one precise moment from that life and then rehearse it so specifically and so clearly that your subconscious starts to accept it as fact. And if you combine that with subliminal input, layering that version of you into your sound environment, your thoughts, your attention, you get results faster because you're no longer trying to force belief. You're simply rehearsing and reinforcing it until your system says, okay, I got it. This is who you are now. Again, quantum rehearsal, it's not mindset work. It's not a journaling routine, and it's not just visualizing your dream life or trying to be high vibe all day long. It's based on a very simple, but I think incredibly powerful truth from my experience. And that is that your subconscious doesn't create from what you want, it creates from what you rehearse. Just like an actor doesn't step on stage and hope that they remember their lines. You don't manifest the life you want either by hoping to stay in alignment. You manifest it by training your system to respond as if it's already normal. This is why people who seem to create pretty easily often say things like, oh, it just felt obvious, or I already saw it in my head, or I don't know how, I just kept showing up like it was done. What they're really describing, it's not magic, of course, it's rehearsal. They've run through the scene internally so many times that it stopped feeling like a fantasy and started feeling like reality was catching up. So, quantum rehearsal, it's the intentional, structured version of that. And it's built on three ideas. Number one, the body learns through repetition and precision. You cannot just imagine the vague feeling of being rich or successful or loved. That's not enough. You have to train your nervous system to fire in response to something specific, something you can hold on to in your mind, like the frame of a film over and over. Number two, the subconscious is always recording, even when you're not trying. That's why subliminals work. That's why certain beliefs stick without effort. In this method, it builds on that by layering conscious repetition with unconscious reinforcement. And number three, time is not linear, it's layered. You're not calling a future into existence. You're choosing a version of reality that already exists. And it's like you're syncing up with it through behavior, attention, an emotional connection, emotional resonance, because that's the version of you who already has the thing. She's rehearsing a completely different script. Your job is to find that script and run it until it becomes the only one that makes sense. And again, remember, this is not about pretending. You're installing a new program or a new code into your brain, into your body. You're installing a reality loop, I would say, that your system will start operating from automatically because you've trained it to. That's what makes this method different. It doesn't rely on willpower, and it doesn't require blind belief, and it doesn't ask you to feel high vibration 24/7. It works because it's built on the way your brain already learns and responds and creates. So now let's talk about exactly how to do this. It's a three-phase process, and I call the three phases number one, scene snapping, number two, state transfer, because you're transferring your state of mind, and number three, reality lock in, because you're going to lock in that reality. You can do this daily. It takes just a few minutes. And over time, it trains your nervous system to normalize a reality that you haven't physically stepped into yet, but already you emotionally recognize as yours. So, phase one, scene snapping. Forget trying to visualize your entire dream life. That's too big and it's too vague. Your subconscious doesn't code in big sweeping vision boards or anything like that. It codes in, for lack of a better word, frames, like we said, like a film frame. So you're going to choose one micro scene from the version of life that you want to manifest, one specific moment, image, or interaction that would only happen if the thing you wanted was already true. This is called your snap scene, like a Polaroid from the timeline that you're stepping into. Here are some examples. If it's money that you want, picture opening up your bank account app on your phone or logging in on your computer and seeing an oddly specific number, like maybe $136,842.19. Or if it's creative success that you want, picture packing up a piece of art to ship to a collector living in a penthouse on the Upper East Side in New York City. If it's love that you want, picture laughing over something totally unimportant while making dinner with your partner and realizing how safe and connected you feel. Maybe it's your career. So if it's your career, picture getting an unexpected email from someone saying, "Hey, your name came up and I want you to interview for this position." The key, it should be specific, normal, and emotionally charged. I guess you could say like a memory that hasn't even happened yet. If your scene feels more cinematic or unreachable, then that's not the one. If it feels small but strangely intimate, then you found it. That's the one. You don't need 20 of these, you just start with one. From my own experience, I'll give you an example for me. For me, years ago, I was picturing standing in the kitchen at the stove of the house that didn't exist yet. And I would look out to my right into the backyard and I would be filled with gratitude. And at the time, we were living in a rental and not in a position to have what I was imagining. But I played it on a loop in my mind. It didn't take long for the process to start and for things to get going. In other words, that house started becoming in process and it started with buying land in our dream, one of our dream neighborhoods. Now let's go on to state two, state transfer. Now that you have your snap scene, you're going to do something that most people don't do with manifestation. And that is you're going to run it like a rehearsal. And here's how. I want you to close your eyes and drop into the scene. For me, again, before it was dropping into just visualizing myself at the stove in that kitchen, looking over to my right and looking out into my beautiful yard. So you're going to close your eyes and you're going to drop into the scene and you're going to hear what's being said. You're going to feel objects around you. You're going to smell the air. You're going to look around and you're going to loop it 2 or 3 times in your mind. Just 30 to 60 seconds is really all it takes. You're not going to wish for it and you're not going to be hoping that it's real. You're going to rehearse it like you're preparing for a role that you've already been cast in. And then, and this is the critical part, you immediately take a small, grounded action that reinforces the scene in your current timeline. In other words, reinforces that snap scene that you just created. You're going to reinforce that in your current timeline right now. And so here are some examples of that. If your scene was about selling art, then maybe you organize your shipping materials or you update your portfolio or you go ahead and make a new post on social media or you refresh your pricing with confidence, right? So your scene is about selling art, maybe to that person, that penthouse in New York City. And so to anchor that, you just do something simple like organize your shipping materials because you would have to be shipping or you update your portfolio. If your scene was about being in a deeply loving partnership, you do something your future or current partner would love about you. So maybe you just straighten up your home, or you make a nice meal, or you respond to yourself with patience, or you plan something for yourself that reflects how well you treat someone you care about. All of those little things would be an example of how to anchor that. If your scene was about a financial expansion, you can try moving money, no matter how small, into a separate account. Maybe you label that account abundance or something like that. Or you make a purchase to show that money is always flowing. Or maybe you make a gratitude list of things that you've been able to pay for over the last month because money is always flowing to you. These tiny little physical actions, they will help your nervous system lock into the rehearsal as real. And you're bridging your imagination with action. And again, not for effort, but for encoding. This is how you train your body to respond like it's already happening, because that's how you collapse time. And now, phase three is the reality lock in. And so now this is the part that accelerates your results. After rehearsal, most people go back to tracking what's missing from their lives, or they return to their default timeline and just kind of wait for things to show up. But that's not what you are going to do. With this method, you're going to stay in sync with the new timeline by consciously logging evidence that it's already forming. So I don't mean that I want you to obsess or, look for signs constantly. What it means is treating every aligned moment, no matter how small, as confirmation that it's already happening. So, for example, if someone randomly says something that reinforces your snap scene and you say to yourself, "Of course, I'm already in it." Or maybe you get a tiny unexpected sale or an opportunity and you think, "Yes, this is my baseline now." Or you realize that you're naturally thinking or behaving differently than you had been. And you say to yourself, "Yes, this is the version of me that I rehearsed." Or maybe if you find a penny in the parking lot, instead of walking by it, you pick it up and think, "Yes, money is always flowing to me constantly." And so you start tracking reality like it's catching up, and you stop looking for proof that it's working, and you start treating everything as proof that it's working. And to reinforce and make it stronger and faster, you then add subliminal programming. You run these three phases consciously during the day, and then let subliminal audio reinforce it unconsciously, either while you're working, maybe while you're going for a walk, or at night while you're sleeping. And your nervous system will start to internalize it faster. Now, to reinforce the importance of repetition, I'm going to run through this again because I know it's a lot, but I really want to make sure you understand this process. And so, number one, you're going to choose your snap scene, make it specific, intimate, and emotionally connected. Number two, you're going to rehearse it just briefly and then ground it through a small action. Number three, you're going to reinforce it by locking in little micro confirmations and letting your system treat them as reality. And then you're also going to add in subliminal programming. You're not pretending, you're not forcing anything. You are training your nervous system to walk in a timeline that's already constructed, and you're going to rehearse it until it becomes the only version that makes sense. So you just need one moment, one scene, one decision to start showing up like it's already true. And so now I'm going to walk you through how I recommend you start. Step one, I want you to choose one area of focus. Pick something specific that you want to shift, not your whole life, just one category. And so, for example, it might be money and financial expansion, or creative success and recognition, or a relationship or the feeling of being loved, or opportunities and ideal career moves, or feeling safe or free or energized, confident, whatever version of self you're ready to access. Then, step two, you're going to create your snap scene. You're going to choose a hyper specific moment from the version of your life you want to step into, not some vague, "I'm abundant" kind of feeling, or not a dream montage of all the things that you want, but just one frame, a detail, something that proves that the thing already happened. So for me, standing in that home proved that the home already existed and I already lived there. You're not imagining, again, being rich or loved or successful. You're dropping into the evidence. So just let me give you a few more examples. If it's money that you want, your snap scene might be something like you're sitting in your car outside the bank after depositing, say, a $12,000 check from an unexpected bonus that you got at work. And you don't even check your balance because you already know that it's growing. Or maybe you're sitting at your kitchen counter refreshing your email and you see three separate order confirmations, two paintings sold from your site, and one inquiry, maybe from a designer asking if you license your work. And as you read the email, you realize that this person found you through someone who bought from you last month. And you say out loud, it's happening. Or if it's a relationship, maybe you're looking at your phone and you realize it's been 24 hours since you and your partner texted, but you're not anxious, you're not spiraling because you know that your relationship is solid. And you smile and you remind yourself of three things that you are grateful for in the relationship. As you can see, these are not dramatic. They're not something like manifesting a yacht. They're very specific, they're very sensory, already real feeling moments that change how you move through the rest of your day. And when your body rehearses those kinds of scenes consistently, it starts to treat them as your new baseline. Step 3, you're going to rehearse and then ground once a day, either the morning, lunch break, before bed. Rehearse that scene for 30 to 60 seconds. Feel it, see it, run it like a loop, and then immediately take that grounding action that anchors it into the real world. You're not trying to make the scene come true, you're just sending a signal. This is what I'm practicing now. And then step 4, you're going to lock it in by logging evidence. Instead of going back to your default settings, start watching for things that match the energy of what you just rehearsed. So that could be a message that's oddly aligned, or a phone call that shows up, or an opportunity that shows up after you stop trying to force it, maybe a shift in how you carry yourself, a different conversation than you're used to having. Anything like that can be used to remind you, okay, this is happening. Everything is moving in my direction. Every time something resonates, even slightly, you tell your brain things like, yes, I'm in it, or this is already happening. I'm here right now. You might also want to use your notes app or a notebook to keep a running list of these things, of these confirmation moments. You don't have to, but again, it's nice because it's not that you need proof, but because repetition strengthens the timeline. In step 5, add the subliminal reinforcement. If you want to accelerate this, especially if you're someone who gets stuck in overthinking, add subliminal audio to your daily environment. You can play it while you work, while you're cleaning, while you sleep. It doesn't matter. It's passive, but it's so powerful. Just make sure that it's targeted to the version of you that you're rehearsing. You don't want a generic subliminal affirmations or something like that. It should sound like a message that you'd already be thinking in this timeline that you're choosing. And so you're not just practicing the scene now, you're building the reality where it already exists. One scene, 60 seconds of rehearsal, one grounding action, and one piece of confirmation, and along with subliminal reinforcement. That's it. And if you repeat that daily, your baseline starts to change quickly because your nervous system stops defaulting to your past and it starts expecting what you've rehearsed. And when your system expects something, it will create it. And so here's what I want you to take away from this. You don't need to believe harder. You don't need to wait until you feel perfectly aligned. And you definitely don't need to stay stuck repeating any kind of ritual that makes you feel like you're just chasing after something. You need a system that speaks the language of your subconscious, and your subconscious speaks repetition, sensory detail, familiarity, and emotional resonance. And that's what quantum rehearsal gives you. You are not hoping you'll become the version of yourself who has the thing. You are rehearsing it until your nervous system accepts it as inevitable. And to speed that up, you pair your rehearsal with subliminal programming. Let those new beliefs and images and identity cues play in the background of your day or while you sleep, so that the version of you you're rehearsing becomes familiar even when you're not paying attention to it. Things will really start shifting because you're no longer just thinking about your future, you're living it. And one more time, pick your scene, run it at least once a day for 30 to 60 seconds, ground it with an action, let your subliminals run as often as possible in the background, and start collecting confirmations. And after you start to practice this regularly, you'll find yourself not just doing it for 30 to 60 seconds a day. Anytime your mind is idle, you'll find yourself just returning to that loop. And once that becomes automatic, then you can go on to a new scene snap. But for today, we're just talking about getting started. And again, none of this is to convince yourself that it's coming. It's more about because you've decided it's already started, it's already happening. And if you know someone who's been trying to manifest but not receiving, please share this with them. That's a wrap for today, my friends. Thank you for sharing your time with me. And remember to show up in your life like the masterpiece you are, because you are the artwork. Please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. Have a fabulous day.